The space shuttle cut through the endless dark sky and descended slowly toward the Academy's landing ground. From above, the Academy looked like a fortress built not by hands but by the very stars themselves. Its towers stretched high, glowing with strange blue fire. Great rings of metal circled the main hall, humming with power. For every new cadet, this was a dream. Standing at the center of the galaxy's greatest training ground, the place where only the strongest warriors were made. When the shuttle doors slid open, cadets of many alien species rushed out. Their movements were sharp, confident, almost arrogant. Armor plates shimmered with strange energy, crests of their noble houses shining on their chests. Some carried weapons forged from light itself, others had staffs heavy with ancient runes. Every one of them seemed proud, as if they belonged there by right. Among them walked one figure who did not shine. A human girl stepped out, her uniform plain gray, no glowing weapons, no crest, no armor. She looked almost ordinary, and in this place of legends, ordinary was dangerous. The crowd noticed her immediately. Whispers rose. A tall alien with skin like polished stone sneered to his companion. A human? Here? They are weak without tools. They build machines to fight for them. With bare hands, they are nothing. Another cadet with 4 shining eyes chuckled. The Academy is no place for Earthborn. She won't last a day. The girl did not look at them. Her eyes were steady, calm, though inside she felt the weight of every stare. Around her, the courtyard opened wide. Statues of fallen heroes lined the sides, each carved with weapons raised high, each telling a story of strength. And in the center of the ground, larger than life, stood the throne. The throne was not a seat. It was a block of dark stone, carved into the shape of a great chair, covered with alien markings that glowed faintly. No one sat on it. No one dared. The throne was a trial, a challenge passed down through generations. It was said that only warriors with true bloodlines and strength could lift it from the ground. Many tried, most failed. For centuries, it had stood as proof that greatness belonged only to the chosen races. As the cadets lined up at the gates, tall scanners lit up the courtyard. One by one, cadets stepped forward. The scanner read their heritage, their rank, and their worth. Each time the gates pulsed green, and the cadets passed through with heads high. When the human girl stepped forward, the scanner stopped. Its glow turned sharp red, alarms echoing across the ground. A cold voice announced, "Earthborn. No record, no heritage. Proceed with caution." Laughter burst out immediately. Cadets pointed, mocking her. One shouted, "Earthborn. Do not engage." Another hissed, "Keep her away from the trials. She will break herself." For a moment, she stood frozen in the crimson glow. Everyone waited for her to lower her head in shame, to step aside quietly. But she did not. She walked forward calmly, the red light still painting her face, and entered the academy without a word. Inside, the academy grounds felt alive. Training arenas roared with energy. Some cadets struck heavy stones with their fists, breaking them into dust. Others fired plasma bolts that left the air burning. In every corner, strength was displayed, tested, celebrated. She walked past them, her steps light but steady. None greeted her. Some laughed behind her back. Others ignored her as if she did not exist. But all of them, in some way, watched her. Humans were rare here, and rare things always drew eyes. Her gaze wandered back to the throne. Even from a distance, it seemed heavier than mountains. Cadets gathered around it, boasting about who would try, who would prove their worth. She heard the whispers floating through the air. "Do you think she'll dare to touch it?" one alien muttered. "She won't even go near," another replied. "Humans are clever builders, not warriors. If she tries, she will embarrass herself before everyone." A third laughed. The human girl said nothing. She stood at the edge of the courtyard, her eyes locked on the throne. Her hands were empty, her uniform simple, but there was something in her stance. A quiet fire, something that made even her silence heavier than words. The sun dipped behind the towers, shadows stretching long across the academy. The trial would begin soon. The throne would wait, as it always had, for hands that dared to lift it. And though no one believed it possible, though every cadet expected her to fail, she was already preparing inside. They thought humans needed tools. They thought strength came only from bloodlines and weapons. They could not see what rested inside her. Something no scanner could measure, something no alien could predict. And when the moment came, the Academy would remember her forever. The Academy courtyard buzzed with excitement the next morning. The day of the first trial had arrived, and every new cadet gathered around the throne. It was not just a block of stone. It was the oldest test of strength, the one that separated pretenders from true warriors. For centuries, legends said only a chosen few had managed to lift it. Those who did became leaders. Those who failed carried the shame forever. The massive throne stood in the middle of the training ground, its surface glowing faintly with ancient runes. It looked simple, yet its weight was said to be greater than a warship's hull. Many cadets whispered about the throne, each one secretly wondering if they could succeed. An instructor, tall and armored in black, stepped forward. His voice echoed through the courtyard. "Cadets, today you face the throne. This is not only a test of your strength, but of your will. One by one you will try. Fail and you will be remembered. Succeed, and your name will be carved into the history of this academy." A hush fell. The first alien cadet, a towering figure with scaled arms like iron, stepped up. He flexed his muscles proudly, glancing at the crowd as if victory was already his. He gripped the throne with both hands, growled, and pulled with all his might. The veins on his neck bulged, his body shook, but the throne did not move. Gasps rose from the crowd. The cadet dropped to his knees, exhausted, and stumbled back in shame. The second cadet tried, then the third. Each one stronger, louder, more confident. Some had weapons strapped to their backs. Some had bloodlines that stretched to kings. Yet when they placed their hands on the throne, nothing happened. It did not lift even a finger's width. Their grunts turned into groans, their pride into silence. The audience grew restless. Whispers spread quickly. "Impossible. No one will lift it today. Maybe the throne chooses only once in a century. Better to fail quickly than embarrass yourself." But their whispers turned sharp when they saw who stood in line next. The human girl. Her plain uniform looked even duller against the gleaming armor of others. She walked slowly toward the throne, her face calm. The crowd erupted in laughter before she even touched it. She dares? A human? She will break her arms. She doesn't even have the strength to carry alien armor, and she thinks she can lift that? The instructor narrowed his eyes. "Earthborn, you are unranked. Do you wish to humiliate yourself?" She did not answer. She simply nodded once and stepped forward. The courtyard grew louder with mocking voices. Some cadets shouted insults. Others jeered and clapped sarcastically. But a strange tension also filled the air. Even those who mocked wanted to see what would happen. Curiosity pulled their eyes to her. The girl placed her bare hands on the cold surface of the throne. For a moment, she stood still, her eyes closed, as if listening to something deep inside. The crowd leaned closer. Then, without a word, she pushed upward. First, nothing happened. Some cadets laughed louder. "See? She cannot even move it." But then a sound. A low, grinding echo that made the stones beneath tremble. The runes on the throne flickered. Dust rose from its base. Slowly, impossibly, the throne shifted. Gasps replaced laughter. Silence cut through the courtyard. The throne began to rise higher, higher, until it was lifted completely off the ground. Her arms shook slightly, but her face remained calm, steady. She held the throne as if it were not the heaviest object in the galaxy, but only a simple weight in her hands. The instructor's eyes widened. His voice caught in his throat. Around him, cadets stared in disbelief. Some stepped back in fear. Others whispered frantically, "It cannot be a human? She lifted it with bare hands. No alien has moved it in years. And she..." The throne slammed back down as she lowered it gently. The ground shook, dust flying in the air. She stepped back, her breathing steady, her face still calm. She said nothing. She didn't need to. The silence stretched long, broken only by the whispers racing like fire through the crowd. Every cadet who had mocked her now stood frozen. Their smirks had vanished, replaced by wide eyes and pale faces. The instructor finally spoke, his voice heavy with shock. "The throne has been lifted by an Earthborn." The courtyard remained still. No one clapped. No one laughed. Fear and respect mixed in every pair of eyes. For the first time, they saw not a weak human, but something else. Something they did not understand. The girl turned and walked back to her place, her steps calm, her head high. She did not look back at the throne, nor at the faces staring at her. She didn't need to. She had changed the academy forever in that single moment. And in the silence she left behind, one truth became clear. Humans were not what the galaxy believed. The courtyard had never been so quiet. Moments ago, it was filled with laughter, insults, and arrogant voices. Cadets from dozens of alien worlds had mocked the human girl, calling her weak, useless, and unworthy. Now those same cadets stood frozen, their eyes wide, their mouths half open, unable to speak. The throne still hummed faintly where it rested, as if the ancient stone itself remembered being lifted after so many years. Dust swirled in the air, catching the dim sunlight. And there she was, the human girl, standing calmly as if nothing unusual had happened. No one dared laugh now. The tall instructor in black armor was the first to break the silence. His voice was low, almost shaken. "Cadets, you have witnessed the impossible." He turned his eyes toward the girl, still holding her posture, still breathing steady. "The throne has not been lifted in decades. Yet this Earthborn did what your strongest could not." His words fell like heavy stones in the courtyard. Whispers began to rise, faint at first, then spreading like fire. How did she do it? She has no armor, no bloodline, no weapons. It must be a trick. No human can be that strong. But no one could deny what their eyes had seen. The girl looked around slowly. She saw the same faces that had laughed at her when the scanner glowed red. The same mouths that had called her fragile. Now those same faces looked pale, uncertain, and afraid. She did not smile. She did not gloat. Her expression stayed calm, almost unreadable. That calmness made them even more uneasy. A large alien cadet, the one with scaled arms who had failed before her, suddenly stepped forward. His pride burned in his chest. "This means nothing," he shouted, his voice trembling. The throne can be tricked. She is hiding some tool in her uniform." The crowd looked at him, desperate for a reason to believe. But the instructor shook his head sharply. "The throne cannot be fooled. It responds only to strength. No device could help her. What we saw was real." The scaled cadet's face twisted in anger, but deep inside, even he knew it was true. He had felt the throne's weight when his own hands had failed. What she did could not be denied. Slowly, respect replaced the laughter. Cadets who had mocked her began lowering their eyes. Some stepped back, as if being near her was dangerous. Others stared at her with suspicion, as though she had revealed a secret they had never wanted to know. The academy was built on the belief that humans were the weakest. They were engineers, thinkers, builders, but never warriors. Every alien here had grown up hearing stories that Earthborn could not survive without tools. Yet today, one human had lifted the throne with bare hands. The idea struck fear into their hearts. If one human could do this, what could humanity become if united? The whispers grew sharper. "She is dangerous. She cannot be trusted. She must be watched." But some whispers were different, softer. "Perhaps we misjudged them. What if humans are more than we thought?" The girl remained silent, letting the storm of voices pass around her. Her heart beat steady. She knew what they saw was only the beginning. Strength was not only in muscle, not only in tools. It was in will, in spirit, in the refusal to bow when mocked. That was the power of being human. The instructor finally raised his hand, silencing the crowd. "Remember this moment," he said firmly. "Today, the Academy has learned something new. Never again should you judge a warrior by their race or their tools." His eyes rested on the human girl. "Strength can come from where you least expect it." The cadets fell quiet. Some looked down in shame, others in fear. The arrogance that had filled the courtyard only hours ago was gone. In its place was a heavy silence that weighed on every heart. The girl turned and walked toward the edge of the courtyard. Each step echoed louder than the voices that had mocked her. No one dared block her path. No one dared speak against her. The same crowd that had once laughed now parted silently, as though making way for something far greater. And as she disappeared into the shadows of the Academy's towers, one thought spread through every cadet like a chill. The galaxy had always believed humans needed tools to stand tall. But what if they didn't? What if, hidden inside them, was a strength no alien could match? That question lingered in the air, heavier than the throne itself. And for the first time in the Academy's history, silence spoke louder than laughter. The courtyard was heavy with silence, but beneath that silence ran a storm. Every cadet was still in shock from what they had seen, yet their eyes stayed fixed on the throne as if waiting for it to rise again. Some still believed it must have been a trick, others whispered it was luck, but deep inside all of them knew the truth. The human girl had done what none of them could. The throne was not just stone. It was the pride of the Academy. For years, it had broken the will of the strongest cadets. Its impossible weight had humiliated princes, soldiers, and heirs of great warrior clans. And yet, the human had lifted it with bare hands, as if it had chosen her alone. The instructor's voice echoed again, though his tone carried awe. "The trial is complete, yet the meaning is greater than the trial itself." He turned to the crowd. "What you witnessed is not chance. The throne does not respond to weakness, nor to trickery. It bows only to strength." But the cadets did not cheer. They could not. Their pride was wounded too deeply. To admit what had happened was to admit that all they believed about humans was a lie. A tall cadet with silver skin broke the silence, his voice sharp. "It cannot be true. She is hiding something inside her body. No one, not even our strongest, has moved the throne in decades. She must have cheated." The instructor's cold glare silenced him. "Do you accuse the throne of being fooled? This stone has stood for centuries, unshaken by liars and pretenders. If she lifted it, then the truth is simple. She was strong enough." The crowd stirred again. Some stepped back, shaken, while others clenched their fists in anger. The Academy was supposed to be the place where aliens proved their superiority. Yet here, a lone human had shattered that belief in a single act. The girl, still calm, took one step closer to the throne. The crowd instinctively pulled back. She placed her hand on the cold surface again. The whispers rose in alarm. "Is she going to do it again?" "No, once was enough. If she lifts it twice, then no one can ever deny her strength." She closed her eyes. Her fingers traced the carvings on the throne, the glowing runes faintly flickering under her touch. She did not look proud, nor hungry for glory. She looked focused, as if she wanted the throne to remember her, not the cadets. Then, with steady breath, she tightened her grip. The courtyard seemed to hold its breath. No one moved, no one blinked. Slowly, the grinding sound returned. Stone scraped against stone as the throne began to rise again. This time she lifted it higher. Her arms were steady, her back straight. The impossible throne was above the ground once more, heavy beyond reason. Yet she stood holding it as if it belonged to her. Gasps tore through the crowd. Some cadets stumbled backward in fear, while others covered their mouths, unable to speak. The sound of her strength seemed louder than thunder. The throne glowed faintly in her hands, as if the runes themselves acknowledged her will. Dust fell like rain around her feet, sparkling in the light. She held the throne there for a moment, silent and unshaken, letting every eye witness what could no longer be denied. When she finally lowered it back down, the ground shook. The courtyard trembled under the weight, and the sound echoed across the Academy. She stepped back slowly, her breathing calm, her expression unchanged. For her, this was not about proving them wrong. It was about proving something greater, that strength was not tied to bloodlines, tools, or alien pride. It was born inside, unmeasurable by scanners or heritage. The instructor bowed his head slightly. Cadets, never forget what you have seen. This academy will remember this day for centuries. But the cadets themselves could not look away from the girl. She was no longer just a stranger, no longer just an Earthborn. To them, she was something they could not explain, an impossible force hidden in a fragile form. The scaled cadet who had mocked her earlier clenched his fists. He wanted to challenge her, to prove that aliens were still stronger. Yet fear stopped him. Deep inside, he knew he could not face her. The whispers spread again, faster this time, rushing from mouth to mouth. A human lifted the throne. With bare hands. Twice. The academy had seen many trials. It had seen princes rise and fall, warriors break and bleed. But never before had it witnessed this. A single human had walked and mocked, scanned as unworthy, and within hours turned silence into fear. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the courtyard, the girl walked away slowly, her head held high. The throne remained where it had always been, yet the world around it had changed forever. Because now the impossible had been done. The sun had almost disappeared behind the tall crystal towers, but the courtyard still echoed with the memory of what had just happened. Cadets who only hours ago stood tall and proud now shifted uncomfortably, their confidence broken. The human girl had lifted the throne twice. Not for glory, not for applause, but with a calmness that made it even more terrifying. She had shown no joy, no arrogance, no excitement. She had simply done the impossible and then walked away. That calmness was what haunted them. The silver-skinned cadet who had mocked her earlier could not bring himself to meet her eyes. He had called humans weak, yet now every time he glanced at her, his chest tightened with unease. What if she looked back at him? What if her calm gaze revealed that she remembered his insults? He lowered his head, hoping she wouldn't notice. The scaled cadet who had failed before her clenched his fists, but the anger in him was poisoned with fear. He had thought of humans as fragile creatures, but he could not forget the sound, the grinding roar of stone rising in her hands. That sound still rang in his ears like thunder, and he wondered if he would ever forget it. Around the courtyard, the whispers grew darker. Cadets spoke in low voices, but the fear in their tone could not be hidden. She lifted it as if it was nothing. Her face. She didn't even struggle. What if all humans can do this? That last question sent a chill through the group. If one human could do what hundreds of aliens could not, then what if more humans carried the same hidden strength? For centuries, the galaxy had looked at Earth as a small, unimportant world. But now the thought of a whole race of humans filled the cadets with dread. The instructor watched the crowd carefully. He had seen fear before, but this was different. This was not fear of pain or death. This was fear of a truth too big to ignore. The academy was built on the belief that certain species were chosen for greatness. That belief had just been cracked, and inside the crack, something new was growing. The girl herself stood quietly near the edge of the courtyard. She was not smiling, not celebrating, not demanding recognition. She simply observed the crowd. Her steady gaze swept over the cadets, and wherever her eyes landed, heads lowered quickly. Some looked away in shame, others in quiet terror. One cadet, small and sharp-eyed, whispered to his friend, "She doesn't even look proud. That makes it worse. If she had mocked us, we could hate her. But she looks untouched. Like we are nothing to her." The friend nodded nervously. It's like she was born to do it. Like the throne was waiting for her. The fear spread faster than fire. Even cadets from warrior clans, whose ancestors had fought in wars across galaxies, could not bring themselves to laugh anymore. Their pride had always told them they were superior. But now, standing in the shadow of what she had done, they felt small. That night, when the cadets returned to their quarters, the whispers did not stop. In the halls, in the training rooms, even in their private chambers, the same question haunted them. What if humans were not weak? Some cadets refused to sleep, their thoughts racing. They imagined armies of humans lifting weapons, machines, even worlds without effort. Others dreamed restless dreams, hearing the sound of stone rising, seeing the calm human face that had shown no fear. Meanwhile, the human girl sat alone in her quarters. The room was simple, bare walls, a narrow bed, a single light. She sat on the edge of the bed, her hands resting quietly on her knees. She knew what she had done, and she knew what it meant. The throne was not just a block of stone, it was a symbol, and symbols carried power far beyond their weight. She closed her eyes and breathed slowly. She could almost hear the voices outside, the fear growing like a storm. She did not want their fear. She did not want their silence. But she knew this was how change began. Somewhere deep inside the academy, alien leaders were already gathering. Their voices were hushed, their faces grim. The news of the throne's lifting had reached them within minutes. They debated furiously. This cannot be allowed. If humans are strong, the balance will break. She is one girl. Perhaps she is unique. No, the throne does not bend for one. It bends for truth. And the truth is dangerous. Fear was no longer in the courtyard alone. It was spreading to the very core of the academy's rulers. Back in her room, the girl opened her eyes. She did not smile, but a faint spark glowed in her gaze. She had felt the throne move under her hands, had felt its weight give way to her will. And in that moment, she had known something no scanner or alien had ever told her. Humans were far more than what the galaxy believed. And now the galaxy had begun to fear it. The academy was never truly silent. Even in the darkest hours of night, the halls usually echoed with the hum of machines, the clang of training weapons, or the chatter of cadets boasting about their victories. But tonight was different. Tonight, whispers replaced laughter. The story of the throne spread faster than fire. Cadets who had seen it with their own eyes told and retold the moment, their voices trembling with the memory. Those who had not witnessed it gathered in disbelief, demanding details. And each time the tale was told, the fear in it grew stronger. A human lifted the throne. One cadet whispered in the mess hall, his hands shaking as he set down his cup. Not once, twice. Another corrected quickly, as if forgetting that detail would be a crime. With bare hands, a third added in a hushed voice, no tools, no armor, nothing. At first, some laughed nervously, saying it must be a lie, a trick, or an exaggeration. But when they saw the pale faces of those who had actually been there, the laughter died. Even the most arrogant cadets fell quiet. By morning, the whispers had spread beyond the cadets. Instructors passed each other in corridors, their expressions serious. Messages rushed through secure channels. In high towers where the academy leaders met, stern voices argued in private. The throne was not just a test. It was a sacred symbol, and symbols could not be ignored. One alien leader, his skin like molten gold, spoke with urgency. If one human can do this, then what of the rest? Have we underestimated them all this time? Another leader slammed his hand against the table. No, it was chance. One human girl means nothing. But a third shook her head slowly. The throne does not bend to chance. It bends only to truth. And the truth is dangerous. Outside those walls, cadets whispered in the training grounds. Some spoke with awe, others with dread. A small group of younger cadets gathered in the courtyard where the throne still rested. None dared touch it, but they stared at it as if it had come alive. I can still hear the sound, one said quietly. Stone breaking from stone. It was like the world itself moved. Another shivered. Her face. She didn't even look proud. That's what I can't forget. She looked calm. Too calm. The fear was not only about what she had done, but how she had done it. No struggle, no arrogance, no sign of weakness. She had lifted the throne as if it was meant for her alone. And now, rumors began to stretch beyond the academy walls. Traders who supplied the kitchens carried the story off-world. Guards whispered to their families. By the time the sun set again, The words "a human lifted the throne" were already echoing across distant stations and planets. In the dormitories, cadets lay awake, unable to rest. Some felt shame for mocking her. Others felt anger that their pride had been broken. But beneath all of it, there was the same heavy question. What if humans were more dangerous than anyone had believed? One cadet, his voice low, whispered to his roommate in the dark. If humans can do this, what will they do when war comes? The roommate swallowed hard. Maybe that's why they build tools. Maybe their machines are not their strength, but their chains. Maybe without them, they're even worse. The thought left them both shivering. Meanwhile, the human girl walked the halls in silence. Wherever she went, voices dropped. Cadets stepped aside quickly, pretending not to look, but their eyes always followed her. Some filled with fear, some with curiosity, and a few with something new, respect. She felt it. The air itself had changed. She had not come to prove anything to them, yet now her every step carried the weight of what she had done. She wondered how long the whispers would follow her. Perhaps forever. That evening, she passed through the courtyard again. The throne sat in the fading light, silent and unmoved, yet no one dared go near it. Cadets who saw her froze in place. Whispers rose again like wind through dry leaves. There she is, the Earthborn, the one who lifted it. Some eyes looked at her with hidden admiration, others with fear so deep it bordered on hatred. She understood both, for in every whisper, she heard the same truth. She had broken their belief, and nothing frightened them more than a shattered belief. From the highest towers to the lowest halls, from the mouths of cadets to the ears of alien rulers, the same story now traveled through the stars. A single human had lifted the throne with her bare hands, and the galaxy was listening. The academy stood restless under the twin moons. The throne still sat in the courtyard, heavy and silent, but its presence no longer felt the same. Once it had been a symbol of alien pride, proof of ancient strength. Now it was a reminder of a truth none of them wanted to face. A human had lifted it. Twice, cadets moved through the halls in uneasy silence. Their footsteps echoed against the crystal walls, yet conversations were cut short whenever the human girl passed. No one dared mock her anymore. No one dared speak too loudly when she was near. The same students who had laughed at her when the scanner turned red now avoided her eyes, their pride replaced by quiet shame. But fear lingered stronger than shame. The leaders of the academy met in secret chambers high above the training grounds. Their voices carried the weight of panic. She has broken the order of things, one growled, his tusks glinting in the dim light. This cannot be spread further, another said sharply. If the galaxy believes humans are this strong, chaos will follow. But an elder voice cut through their whispers. It is already spreading. You cannot silence a truth once it has been seen. The throne itself witnessed her strength. To deny it is to deny the throne. Silence followed, heavy and undeniable. Meanwhile, the girl herself remained quiet. She trained when others trained, walked when others walked, and ate alone at the long metallic tables. She asked for no recognition, gave no speeches, demanded no respect. But her calm presence unsettled the academy more than any shout of victory could have. For strength without arrogance was something even the proudest cadets could not fight. Whispers followed her everywhere. Some carried fear, others carried something different, respect, and even admiration. Younger cadets watched her with wide eyes, their hearts secretly hoping to stand like her one day. Even a few older cadets, hardened by years of training, began to see her not as a threat but as a sign. Perhaps the galaxy had misjudged humans. The turning point came days later during a training match. Two alien cadets fought brutally in the arena, their weapons sparking, their roars shaking the air. The battle ended when one cadet fell, bloodied and broken. The winner stood tall, raising his blade in triumph. But when his gaze flicked to the human girl watching from the edge of the arena, his victory felt hollow. She had lifted something heavier than any weapon. She had fought no one, yet conquered them all. The roar of the crowd died down as everyone remembered the throne. In their hearts, they knew which act carried more weight. The girl turned and walked away, leaving the winner staring after her, his pride suddenly meaningless. That night, alone in her quarters, she looked at her reflection in the polished metal wall. She did not look like a warrior. Her hands were plain, her body no different from any other human. But she remembered the weight of the throne in her grip, the way it had risen as if answering her will. She realized it was never about her alone. It was about her people. The galaxy believed humans were weak. Yet inside them lived a strength no one could see until it was tested. She had been tested, and she had shown them the truth. That truth would not stay in the academy. It would spread across stars, into places she might never reach. Other humans would hear the whispers one day, and when they did, they would remember her. Already, cadets whispered her name not with mockery, but with caution. Already, leaders of distant worlds debated in secret what this meant for the balance of power. Already, the throne had become more than stone. It had become a prophecy. The legacy had begun. One human, lifting a throne with bare hands, had shaken the pride of empires. And in the silence that followed, the galaxy could feel it. The future would not belong to those who mocked humans, but to those who understood them. The academy would never forget. The cadets would never forget. And long after she left, long after the throne gathered dust once more, the story would remain. They claimed humans needed tools, the whispers would say. But she lifted the throne with her bare hands, and that single act would echo through time, carrying with it a new truth. Humanity was no longer to be underestimated. A human legacy had begun.